What is up, everyone? This is the Tesla Beat number 49. I know Joe is a big 49er fan, so this is pretty much his episode. But, obviously in the Bay Area, we're 49er fans, and so excited about this one, but can't believe we're hitting number 49 already. We're pretty much past a year now in running this podcast, so it's been a really long time coming. But as we know, this week has been absolutely busy and lots happening. Layoffs at Tesla. We also have the shareholder meeting coming up with a bunch of votes that we'll get into Elon's comp plan specifically. So, and then obviously we have Joe and Alexandra. Thanks for coming on this week. And we have a special guest who you probably have seen before. Formerly known as My Tesla Weekend, and his new name is FutureAza. If I said that wrong, Brian, please keep me honest. Okay.
You got it right.
All right. So, well, thank you for coming on the show. I've been literally waiting. You've been one of those people who I've wanted to get into the rotation at some point, so I'm glad this worked out. How's it going?
I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. How's it going? Well, it's been an interesting week. I can say that. Few things going on, so I guess it's good we're getting a chance to talk about it.
Hold those thoughts because we want all of your whole take on it. So, just jumping into this Tesla stock. Obviously, we've had the layoffs and the some of the shareholder voting coming out as far as like what needs to be voted on. A couple of reinstated board members, along with Elon's comp plan from 2018. And the stock has, again, it dropped off from 172 last week. It's at about $1.50 and down 40% year to date. So it's been a pretty brutal week. But again, it really depends on how you're viewing the stock. But we're going to be getting into all of the topics. So the biggest, I don't know if this is the biggest one. Probably, I guess it would kind of be a debate, but I think something we had known that was looming, at least for me, I had heard about this probably back in February. I think the first rumors were starting to break about this. More layoffs coming at Tesla, and I've heard that potentially these that 10% was actually potentially up to more like 20%. It really depends. But I think, it happened on Monday, and unfortunately I did know several people that were impacted, and it was brutal to see, at least because you have friends and loved ones that are working at this company. But let's get into everyone's thoughts. Who would like to kick us off this week on just when you heard this, what was going through your mind, also to just overall thoughts on this, and how this is beneficial or not beneficial to the company?
I just immediately tried to reach out to the people I knew and that have always been there in some way for me with the club and stuff like that. So I reached out to those. Some of them were impacted and the majority of them weren't. But like you say, it's maybe a little bit over 10% of the company, but in certain departments, there was like a lot more than 10% of certain departments that were impacted. It was I don't know. It was wild. It was wild. I mean, people wanted Elon focused, and now that he got focused, it's like he's writing
not
the
so
ship.
focused.
Well, I would say that when I saw the rumors coming,
it's obviously heartbreaking.
When I saw the rumors coming in over the weekend, I wasn't ready to touch them because those are too big to leave to the rumor mill. And then when they happened, 10% sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but it's not unprecedented. Tesla has done it even during prosperous times. In 2022, they had a layoff about this size. And again, like you were saying, you want him focused or not? You can't have it both ways. But the critics don't care about consistency. Their goal is just to be critical. And it's one of those, he could cure cancer, and they would complain about the job losses. So it's unfortunate. My heart reaches out to those affected, and it sucks. I get it. But greener pastures and having Tesla on your resume is pretty fantastic.
Alexandra, you want to hit it next?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Well, you're right, Brian. I mean, having Tesla on the resume is going to help these people finding back jobs. But it is heartbreaking. The two news in that context that hit me the most was Drew leaving after 18 years. I mean, just we got to appreciate him. We got used to him. We knew that the energy and battery development sector were in good hands. Elon has taken that partner over. Those people are directly reporting to him now. And Rohan Patel. I'm very fond of Rohan Patel, and he was, over the last months engaging with all of us actively on X. We got responses that we usually try to get early and didn't get. So we were, there was a good communication channel that was appreciated. I think both actually had private reasons to do this, and end of a cycle or building up the next. But that's what they said. It feels as if it was, in friendly terms, and both resigned. Both, are going with the regret of leaving. But it is obviously, I didn't like it, but it didn't alter in any way my conviction in Tesla. I actually bought that same morning more stock. So it's it's horrendously ironic how any other company announces layoffs, the stock rises. Tesla announces layoffs, the stock goes down. I mean, it's just crazy. You get there, you can't do anything right for Wall Street when you're Tesla, which is fine. It gives us a huge opportunity. I mean, people interested in Tesla, having done the homework, knowing what's coming in the next years, short years, should be enthusiastic about this stock, shouldn't be worried about this stock. So good, give us this opportunity, we'll take it.
Last year there was the when a stock got down near 105, a lot of people were on X saying, I can't believe it, I am absolutely buying this dip. And of course the critics stepped in and said, you're buying it now? Look at how far down. It's down 70% from its all-time high. Yes, and those prices, even today, even after this big dip this week, look quaint. That was a great deal. And yesterday the stock went down again. Guys, did you see what happened to the market yesterday? It was a bloodbath. I don't care what you could invest in Nvidia, and yesterday would have been a bad day. So trimming the fat is something that corporations do, and like Alexandra said, it usually results in a bump. But there was other news that came in at the same time that may have offset it. And again, when it's anything related to Elon, it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it, it's the wrong decision. So let's just attack.
Yeah, I think typically, again, it's especially when you're running like a retail or brick and mortar business, or if you call it an auto company, I mean, and that's the majority of the business right now. Typically, when sales are going down or are flat or are being reduced, your costs can't go up. It just doesn't make sense, especially from a P&L perspective. Typically, if the opposite is happening, where sales are struggling a little bit, you should be probably reducing your costs in some fashion. And so because otherwise what's going to happen is the margin obviously for Tesla would continue to erode, potentially at a faster rate than obviously their sales growing. So it's just one of those things where it makes sense from a financial perspective. And this is something, knowing Tesla, they do like to run lean. They like to run with small teams, with highly technical and talented individuals. And so this continues to go back to the root, and that's how they will always be. I mean, Tesla will, in my opinion, especially as they continue to get bigger, they will all continue to continuously do things like this. Not necessarily every several years, maybe, but this has been something that it's not like this was their first layoff. So I think from a financial perspective, given the climate that we're in right now, it makes sense. They had actually avoided it. They're kind of late to the game, but obviously they were trying to avoid it back in 2022. So, but companies for the past year have been just shedding tons of employees because there was this huge overhire over the past over COVID. And so a lot of these companies are correcting. And then you also have companies that are also transitioning, like Google, who's going from this search engine company, transitioning into AI. So it's a lot's happening right now as far as layoffs go. I don't know if they're over. It seems like there's still lots of macro stuff going on. We're noticing it with a lot of our partners of the club, literally, and automotive. So I think and this is also one of those things. It's not like they were just cleaning out, one division like HR or something else. It was across the board. I mean, sales, service, probably depend. I don't know how bad engineering was, but I assume pretty much every department has been impacted. So maybe less so on some departments, but it definitely impacted a lot of the departments, at least from people I knew. So it makes sense. It was hard to see, especially when we know people who we talk to potentially every day and work with or have known for years. Like Rohan is a personal, I'm not gonna, more than an acquaintance, not necessarily like we're like buddies, but I would call him a friend. So it was really sad to see, because I think him specifically, he's been one of the biggest advocates of pushing. I mean, they all are, but really just opening up the levers, especially from a policy perspective. All of these states, who've had so much friction. I mean, he's the guy behind the scenes, going to India, getting into Thailand and some of these other countries. I would assume he's the guy that's unlocking all of that, especially from a policy perspective, and figuring out their strategy of how do you unlock the best business model in these countries. Who knows if he was involved in the China, thing as well, just getting in there, because no other U.S. business has had this type of business model in China. It's just the fact that they aren't connected to a subsidy who owns part of the company. Tesla technically owns the full company, and that's just unheard of in that market. So knowing that he was impacted, and obviously Drew, and others as well, it was pretty rough, but at the same time, it makes sense that stuff like this happens. All right, let's get into the next big topic.
If you allow me, I would like to.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you allow me, I would like to just have one speculation. I think Rohan, you remember Rohan has been with Tesla for 8 years, and prior to that worked for the Obama administration. I think he sees a window to help the next president of the United States in this field again, and will then be very useful for Tesla again. So it's bittersweet for me, because I appreciated him a lot, and really had the feeling we got a window into business development policy when we spoke to him. But I do believe there's actually something bigger coming up for him. And I mean, I know nothing. This is just me speculating, but it could be very good in the end.
I wanted to say real quick on Professor Leo Kogwan that what I'm seeing is that he feels like he's not getting the kind of information that he would expect from a company in which he holds so many shares. If you look at someone like Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, when he has billions in Citibank, if they're going to be making big moves, they will call him and get his opinion. They may not take his opinion, but he feels valued, he feels seen. And I know investors who have 3, 4, 5 times as many shares as Ross or Gary who don't even get invited to events. Their lottery ticket never comes up. And meanwhile, you've got these nickel and dime institutional investors who are getting private tours, getting to see what's going on. And I can sense there's frustration there. And I don't know what the solution is. If that is a problem, it's one that's very easy to fix, and we could see improvement on that front in the coming years. So I am not excited about the direction Professor Leo Kogwan is suggesting, but I get it.
Well, I don't get it, but I understand his frustration, and it actually started the day that Elon unfollowed him, right? I mean, he just turned bitter at that very moment, and you're right. I mean, usually companies have an investor relation group that is more communicative. I mean, communication is the weakest point for Tesla. We can all admit that, as much as we love the company, and so it is clear that in the IR field, they are concentrating on the heavyweights, and you can actually see it in the proxy that came out this week. They are working with the top 10, 20 institutionals because they know they need those votes, and so it must be frustrating for him. But how can you hold close to 30 million stock and do anything possible to voice that you actually want Elon gone, right? I mean, there's just, there's one thing being frustrated. There's one thing that communication should be improved, but there's another step which is just unconceivable to go on the dark side of things. And that's what happened. And it's not only him, but obviously he has the highest megaphone because he has the most shares. So, and he recently bought 600,000 more. So do you buy these shares because of what you want to achieve? Is that now suddenly your motivation? And that gets really, sour.
Yeah, in my opinion, if I actually remember, shout out to Leo if he's watching, but I remember like before a lot of this stuff was happening, I was reaching out to him to see if I could interview him, if have a conversation with him, because he obviously had a lot of shares and wanted to get his perspective on why. And but yeah, no, he definitely went down a very, very negative path. I think even to the point he took a break from Twitter or X, just because it was so negative. And if he's back with a vengeance now, I mean, in my opinion, it's just like, why would you want so Tesla is at one of the biggest transition points. We all know they're in between these growth periods. We know that they're transitioning between a hardware to a software company. And ultimately, probably that's why most of the investors came, is because they see Autonomy. They obviously see all of these other startups within this one company. But at such an important point, this is not the time to be changing leadership. This is in my opinion, this is the time to shore things up, get Elon back on board, and really let's tackle autonomy. Let's tackle full self-driving. Let's get this done. We know, and as you're doing this, let's continue to get a leg up on legacy auto with making the best cars. And that's what needs to be happening right now. That's why I think Kimball is such a key piece to voting him to the board again. I think it's important to, vote this comp plan. Yes. Again, we'll get into this, but it's just, why would you want to, especially as an investor, what do you think is going to happen? Okay. So they get rid of Elon and then Tom Zhu comes in. Shout out to Tom, like great leader. He did some amazing stuff in China. He's doing amazing stuff even now, but he's not an Elon Musk, and that's, not a knock on him per se, but he is not the engineer or entrepreneur that we know that Elon is. And so it's just one of those things where it's, if you have that much stock, why would you want to? That doesn't make sense. Even if you believe that the Twitter thing, him buying that was the worst decision he ever made, sure, that's fine. There's probably people out there that agree with you, but at the same time, it's like, now you want to kick him out. So what do you think is going to happen to your stock? Do you think that, unless, and again, the leadership there is strong at Tesla. It is. But Elon, again, has an ability to get stuff done, to really pull people together when needed. So, which leads us into really Joe, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I had made a post about the fact of the support value and what they were implementing, and we'll kick it to Alexandra after this. But one of the things I wanted to make note of is what you were saying, John, is like, okay, you put Elon out, but if you look at the report cards of all the other companies, there's nobody in electrification doing what he's done with this company. There's nobody even close to even like having as a good of a footing in the industry and moving it forward as he is. And so who could take the helm? You know what I mean? Like everybody's got bad report cards right now. Even RJ Scaringe, and he's like one of the more saintly freaking CEOs besides anybody else. And everybody's got bad report cards. So, I mean, none of them can teach the class. Just keep letting Elon be the guy he is. And it just wild to me. And this comp plan, like initially I was frustrated because we voted on something in 2018 and then you take that away as if we weren't making our own decisions and our decisions weren't valid. I didn't like that. So now that we're back at this point, and I said this before we entered the call, but now we're at a crazy inflection point to where you've had people that jumped on in 2019 and 2020 and 2021 on the run up, and those people are frustrated with Elon and his politics, and man, and now they're gonna vote. We're at a really crazy point in time on when all this just happens to come up and has to be re-voted on, and it's frustrating, but here we are, right? And one final thing: how lucky are we that we get insights into a person and he speaks to us daily? And this is like one of the most knowledgeable people in the world. You know what I mean? Like, just take aside the fact of what he's accomplished in life, but the fact that he talks to just regular people every day and he's so accomplished in life. It's like if one of the great geniuses of our time was just speaking to everyday people all the time in a forum to where you can just, engage with him. And here we are trying to damage that, and then we cite him badly for his interactions. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of very, very wealthy people that make decisions in this world that we do not have the insights to, and we do not know their inner thoughts. And we back those companies all the time. And here we have a guy that just puts it all out there, and then we can't back him. It's wild.
Yep. Did you all right, well, we can kick to Alexandra. I don't know, Alexandra, if you want to really just take, maybe catch people up
Sure.
on, give the context, and then give like what
Oh, yeah.
was shared over this past week
Sure.
about what's upcoming.
Okay. And if I'm going too long, you calm me down. So, because it's an endless story, but the 4 words that I really want to hammer the next couple of weeks is a deal. Oh, it's actually 5 words. A deal is a deal, right? I mean, there was a deal in 2018. Even people like Brian, who signed up in 2019 for his first stock, or me, who signed up in 2020, we knew that deal was on the table. When we bought that stock, we knew that was part of the stock price. So a deal is a deal. And I just can't accept that whatever circumstances, a judge in Delaware suddenly makes a decision that this should be, well, we revisit it because that's what it is. And now that we want to revisit, there are people out there, including now Leon, who said, yes, but it needs 100% majority. So let's just start from there, because this is completely ridiculous. Now, we got the proxy this week. I think it was on Wednesday. And it has a couple of basic points in there. It has, I think, 5 or 6 shareholder proposals in there, which management is against. So you can read those. It has the re-election of Kimball and of James Murdoch in there. That is just regular. We have 8 board members. They have 3-year terms. They put them together in groups, in 3 groups. 3 of them are voted 1 year. The next 3 are voted the other year, and the last 2 are voted the 3rd year, and this is the 3rd year. So this is just a normal routine re-election. I hope it passes. Just want to state very clearly that Kimball is, in my view, essential to Tesla's board, because by being on the board, he has insights in everything Tesla and can communicate, calm down, help Elon. And I think he has a crucial role here. And so, all these people saying, oh, but it's a brother, it's just fraternity, it's what, I don't know what. Think twice, because Kimball, and if you don't know about it, read that chapter very well in Walter Isaacson's book. Watch the Lex Friedman interview of Kimball that came out about 2 weeks ago. It's going to give you a lot of comfort in voting for Kimball. So that's the regular point. And then come the 2 very important points, which are actually the reason why this shareholder meeting, which should have been on May 8th, got delayed to June 13th, because they needed all this time to do the research, document what they were doing, and then put it out. So we're having actually a 5-week delayed shareholder meeting. I've been calling, actually, in one of our president calls, that I was waiting for this proxy. It didn't come. Well, there we know now that it got delayed by 5 weeks. So those 2 points are changing the legal domicile of Tesla from Delaware to Texas, and simultaneously revoting the 2018 comp package. Before I get into details, make no mistake, they are not, and they're stating that they have not touched the 2024 comp package. They have not even started negotiations on that one. So why is that the case? Because they will do that only once the company is in Texas. They don't want to have anything to do with the 2024 comp package while the company is still in Delaware. So that one is not concerned by now. If I hear people saying, yes, but what next milestone? That's not the topic. It's probably not going to be the topic this year. I'm calling it 2024. It may be actually a 2025 comp package. So anyway, so here we are on those two big subjects. And on those two, they have done the following. They have put in place what they call a special committee. You know, the board is already having 3 or 4 committees for compensation and for governance and whatever. With different heads of the board members on it. And now they've put in place, great slide, the special committee that is headed by Kathleen Wilson-Thompson. So she is on the board of directors. She has been working in high-level HR positions, notably for Walgreens, before she joined Tesla's board. And so this was set up. Initially, it was 2 people. It was her and Joe Gabia from Airbnb, but he recused himself. So it was her. And she then hired advisors. So she hired the Austin branch of Sidley's law firm in the form of these 2 people, Christine Seeger and John Skaken, to help her assist in how these 2 subject matters are approached. And they then hired to help them a Delaware counsel, which is Mr. Thompson Baylis, and for all governance question, a professor from the University of Chicago, Professor Casey, and a financial mergers and acquisitions consulting firm. I mean, they have a lot of different hats on to help them on the financial sides. That is Julian Loke. So this committee has been put in place in February, and they have been working simultaneously on the 2 matters of how do we document that we want to move from Delaware to Texas and then give a shareholder vote recommendation, put this on the ballot, and do we need to also address this revote of the 2018 compensation package? And they decided together that yes, it has to be done in parallel, in tandem. So that's why we're now having this shareholder meeting relatively late, but so that both of these could be put together. And so from page, I think it's 28 onwards of the proxy, you have all this documentation, how they came to the conclusion to bring both these points forward now, and that we should, they obviously, their recommendation is to vote for both of these points. And the one interesting thing, I think, and then keep it at that, is they have been in contact with the biggest institutional investors, and 4 of them have already expressed that they're in favor of voting for this. So this gives me a very great confidence that this vote is going to go through. Remember, it went through with 73% plus Elon and Kimball afterwards, got above 80%, but 73% of the votes in 2018. I think we'll have a majority again. And so I hope we're going to vote for that. You'll all get your vote bulletins starting the week of April 29th. So you from then on have 6 weeks after that to cast your vote. I really implore everybody to go and contact your brokers or banks for each individual account for which you have Tesla shares, to make sure you get your voting material and can vote and understand how you vote. You usually can vote by email and on websites, but it could also be on the same platform, or it could be by telephone, in writing, or whatever. There are multiple ways of voting, but you have to contact your broker and banker to understand how to do it, and you have to do it for each individual account. So I leave it at that for a moment. There's much more to be said, but it's just getting so complex. We're having some headwinds. We're having some people that are really against this. They're using this for political matters, or because they just hate Elon, or because whatever else. putting trash out there that is incredible, like you'll be much richer if this doesn't work. Well, you may be much richer for a couple of days, but then Elon may leave, and then let's see whether you're still much richer. So I mean, it's just completely crazy, the forces that I play here. So let's concentrate on what needs to be done. We're going to put up a hashtag voted Tesla 24 to make sure that everybody who has voted, I don't want to know what you voted, but that we know that you did vote, because we want to make sure participation is high. And keep in mind, a deal is a deal. We had a deal. Elon executed like nobody ever did, and he deserves his money. So here I am. I think I summed it up.
Well, I'm going to agree with all of that. Absolutely all of it. A deal is what I'm saying. And yeah, you may be, but I want more money. Right. You know, you can also get more money by stealing. That's also not the right approach. That has a bad long-term effect. And this would too. You don't get to renegotiate the ticket for your train ride after you've arrived at your destination. Well, it wasn't as smooth of a ride as I expected. Oh, there was a delay in the second station. Hey man, deal's a deal. And that's why you always get these things in writing. And it was in writing. We have to honor it. And even if you hate him, you have to recognize the deal's a deal. And I had a contract job once where I allowed the company to not pay me until later. And they would make little payments along the way. And then when it came time at the end of the contract, I said, look, we got to settle this up. And they looked at it and said, boy, we disagree with the total amount. Therefore, the agreeable amount is 0. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, that company did not survive long enough for me to get the money anyhow. But it was, I knew there was a risk going in, and it was priced in, but it was unfortunate. But you don't get to renegotiate at the end, and an agreeable price isn't 0. So, Tesla would be better off. Hey, if you want Tesla to get extra cash, Elon has to buy those shares in the comp plan. That would be an extra like $6 billion in cash on hand that Tesla has. That's enough money to build an entire factory. If you want the company to succeed, maybe that's a good place to start. And the people saying, well, Kimball, I mean, that's just family. You shouldn't. Hey, he's got executive experience. He's got founding experience. And according to the biography, he is often a voice of reason. He is someone who says, let's bring this back down a little and get, I understand we want these big dreamy ideas, but we have to have steps in between here and the dreams. If you want more voices of reason, you don't get rid of Kimball, is what I'm thinking there. So then, if the stock is down, it's because Daddy Bad Tweet said something mean on the X platform. Guys, is that why Rivian is dying struggling? Is that why Fisker is dying? Is the whole market down because of Elon's tweets? I tend to think it might be more complicated than that. And on these comp plans, I just don't think negotiating from scratch after all deliverables have been paid is the right approach. And the people say, well, but he's a part-time CEO. He wasn't when we hit the milestones. He was 80, 90, 150 hours a week. He was sleeping in the factory during this time to hit the milestones. And I've seen other people say, well, but it's a 10-year plan. He has to finish the 10 years. I didn't see it as a minimum of 10 years. I saw it as a maximum of 10 years. You have a maximum of 10 years to hit these milestones. And if someone had said, well, he should slow down, I don't want to hit him too early, that would have been even crazier talk. Did he hit the milestones or not? Pay him.
Yeah, I was trying to think of examples of a deal is deal, and I think it's one of those things. It's almost like in this case, the sad thing is this is not even like winning the lottery, right? Because you buy a ticket, and if you win, you get all the money, right? In this case, like not only did Elon buy a ticket, but he also was sleeping on the floor. He was 50% of probably all his pain was caused by Tesla. And he is a guy that lives and breathes, at the time, Tesla. He was just, living in Nevada, living in Fremont factories. And and just doing everything he could to make sure that this company stayed alive. And he had invested pretty much every last dollar from the PayPal acquisition into these companies, Tesla and SpaceX. And so, like, to be able to, again, we don't have to unhash this, but to come back and say, hey, like, by the way, you actually didn't own that ticket, or more importantly, like, even though we thought that that was the stupidest comp plan at the time, for some crazy reason, you like attained it. But we're going to take that back now. It's just, insane. And I think that's why I think it's, we're at this, and I keep bringing this up, is like, as Alexandra say, a deal's a deal, for one. And then number two is, this is one of the biggest inflection points. And really, it's kind of like that growing teenager, you're kind of going through puberty. It's like, there's still this puberty stage we have to get through, as we've kind of gone from being like, a kid to a young adult or tween, whatever you want to call it. But there's still this like transition that needs to happen. And that is what is happening at this point. And, we can get into how, maybe Elon's betting on the company on full self-driving and all that stuff. But ultimately, this needs to be voted yes. And I think people forget that Kimball also went into personal bankruptcy for Tesla. He literally mortgaged his house and everything, gave all the money that he had back in 2008 to literally make Tesla succeed, and to the point where he had banks calling him every week, hey, where's your money? Where's your money? We need the money. And then that bank ended up going bankrupt. So he got another call back, and it was like, oh, you have a year. You're good. Sorry. Got a little guinea pig. But all that to say is that, he has been one of the biggest supporters of Tesla. He's been around helping make this company become what it is, and being the voice of reason to Elon. So it's one of those things that, those two things, they need to be voted over. And the fact that we're even debating this is insane to me. Like, no one else, even if this was $100 million package, like, if you talk to anyone else and put them in their shoes, like, because I think a lot of people are going to look at this and like, he's already one of the world's richest men. Why does he need more money? It's like, but that's done. You can't use that argument. Imagine you stuck $50 in something, and then you actually work to get that to $1,000. You're going to want that money. It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, I don't know. But any other thoughts on the comp plan, or just potentially even the shareholder meeting? Otherwise, we can potentially get into some of the other stuff that was mentioned.
I love that analogy. Why should you get your lottery winnings if you already have a good job? How dare you? Well, because the deal was, I buy a ticket, and if I win, I get the winnings. No, but yeah, we didn't think you were going to win. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yep.
Some of the interesting things, I would love to get your take on this, but it looks like Elon is now running all of sales in North America, Europe, and the Middle East and Africa. Any thoughts on this? Whether it's a good thing, a bad thing, whether this, I thought that this was pretty interesting. Again, assuming that this is true.
I figured he was already doing this. You know what I mean? From when you look at all the plane rides and jetting around the country and the world that he had to do, and the hands he had to shake. I mean, this is what he does, and this is who he is. And if you think these deals get done without Elon even knowing about it or having a hand in it in the first place, I mean, you're kind of kidding yourself. So I think this just kind of, I mean, it's more work on his plate, right? But these are people that get to talk directly to him before they have to speak to somebody else who spoke to him. You know, I mean, I think there was just like that one area of degree of separation, but I think now it's just like he's like directly in it. So I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's fine.
I think I don't have enough information to reach a conclusion. He's already spread very, very thin, not just at Tesla, but across as many companies. But the execution, as far as I can see, is still there. If I have some questions about Mexico, about Nevada, about upcoming plans in Berlin, about the compact and the robotaxi, but we've got an earnings call coming up, and we've got Robotaxi Day on August 8th, and there's going to be answers. So is he spread too thin? Yes, just like he has been since forever. He's always been spread too thin because that's how he runs right at the red line all the time. That's how he is. If he believes he can handle it, I'm inclined to believe him. If I was going to doubt him, I would have done it years ago and I'd have been wrong. So I don't know what would make me suddenly a genius on this topic, but I think he knows best, and I'm confident that if he is overstretched, he will find the people to slot into those roles. There are people in the chain of command who know the job, who were working for Drew or Rohan, who can just step up, and who probably are, in some ways, already stepping up into those roles, whether it's in official capacity or not.
Alexandra, do you have any
And
thoughts?
you're completely right. We'll see. Yeah, it's completely right, Brian. We're going to have much more information in the earnings call next Tuesday on, whether there is different responsibilities or whatever. But if it is, it is. I mean, if Tesla has always been a very flat hierarchy, lots of people replying directly to the CEO. And so fair enough, he's now taken over Drew's direct line because probably nobody's just there to replace Drew. Doesn't bother me in the least, and the same for Rohan. That he's in charge of sales, I actually like. And the first thing we've seen is that he was restructuring how inventory is now treated, and that it's not this constant price reduction, not price reduction game anymore. So that will give probably consumers confidence that they should buy now rather than waiting for the next price cut. So I'm completely neutral on this point. Don't think it's anything new or anything different.
Yeah, I think if this is the case, I think it's going to be great just to know that he is more involved in that. Obviously, again, if he is, as the company is navigating some of these macro headwinds that are happening in auto, really in the EV space right now, I think it is important that he potentially even gives some headspace as far as some of the operations that potentially could go into that. But so that will be interesting. Again, it's just speculation. So. Who really knows? One thing that is more certain is Omar posted something. Elon is betting the company on autonomy. He has lost his mind, ? What do you expect from a guy who has bet his car company on electrification in 2003? Not quite betting and then Elon responds, not quite betting the company, but going balls to the walls for autonomy is blindingly obvious move. Everything else is like variations on a horse carriage. So, and I think Elon, back when I interviewed him about 2 years ago, he said that the Tesla is worth the whole worth of Tesla being worth a lot of money versus pretty much nothing is whether we solve autonomy or not. So I think that's the overwhelming focus here and for him. And I think, I don't know if he's going through another surge is what they would call it. But I think, hopefully he can kind of, especially as they get ready for the Robotaxi demo, and more importantly, just in general, like, I think this is important. To just get over the line, to solve this, make sure that, you have the right infrastructure and to really just allow AI to get us to where we need to be. Otherwise, it's just going to be an ongoing thing and tons of iterations like we've been seeing. So, and that still may need to happen, but because this is one of the world's hardest problems to solve, but we definitely need his brain and focus. But what is your thoughts on that tweet? And more importantly, just on maybe even the transition that they're going through, but was this more reaffirming to actually have him publicly state that that's what's on his mind, or where did you guys go with this thought or the statement from him?
Well, I'd say that it first of all, colorful, very colorful man. Wavos to the wainscoting is always going to be something that tickles my fancy, but it was a classic example of a season 1 cliffhanger where it answers a couple of questions and raises some new ones. Fortunately, we know the date of season 2. We know when we're getting the answers. It's going to be some on the earnings call and a bunch more on the Robotaxi day on 8/8, or as the Europeans would say, 8/8, because they do the dates backwards. But there's going to be some opportunity to see what's actually going on. This is an exciting time. If we believe that FSD is solved or will be solved in the next year, then he's right. Everything, all the pieces fall together. You need all of this stuff to come. Imagine seeing the future and not getting positioned to capitalize on it. That would be the sort of thing that he would expect to get fired for in the future. He gets out ahead of visions. A lot of things he does are for the first time. Tesla was the first to put the batteries in the floor. Now it's unheard of to put them anywhere else. The first to use gigacastings. Now there are dozens of these machines around the world in different manufacturers. Structural battery. Every step that Tesla takes is mocked and then adopted. Robots? Really? You're going to do robots? Yes. Now Hyundai's doing it. Now Mercedes is doing it. Now dozens of very serious, credible companies with good products are doing it. But Tesla was doing it. They were the first ones to take a serious step in that direction. So while I think Robotaxi is not ready and that this is a bad idea, I'm not going to second guess, because if this is the first time he's wrong about one of these, then that's acceptable. But he hasn't been wrong in the past, and I am not going to pretend that I know better than him.
Yeah,
Alexandra?
I completely agree with you, Brian. And the thing is, who is surprised here? I mean, didn't we have Autonomy Day in 2019, like 5 years ago? Didn't we know this was coming? Didn't we hear for 5 years all these people screaming, "Oh, he's late, he's always late"? Well, now he's early or what? I mean, come on, decide what side you're on. Is he late? Is he now too early? Are you worried? Have you never been worried for 5 years? It is exhausting following these people. I mean, it's already exhausting following Elon just because for the good cause, but the bad cause is following these people wheeling around with a new reason why they're upset now. Let's get to it. The biggest moat Tesla has is autonomy. They have it now. There is no competitor to be seen. The right decision is to get this done the soonest possible, to lay out the business plan, to get the existing Teslas that want to be on the network on that network. Get it done. I mean, we're going to wait, that other people catch up? We're going to build a $25,000 car first because that's so nice to have? No, go for your biggest moat. I mean, I want that $25,000 car as well. But what I want first is Tesla having autonomy established before anybody else out there, making sure that is where the margin is, that is where the know-how is, that is where the differential is to everybody else. So get a grip. You've known it for 5 years. Grow up. This is the moment.
Oh man. Okay. Alexandra, just always love the color on that. Yeah, I mean, I think this is true, right? I mean, I think we know that this is why I bought a Tesla. This is why I also wanted to start a community and get involved with other owners, is because of the autopilot and full self-driving. The Tesla was the Model 3 when I bought mine in 2018 of July, like early July. And technically, I don't remember. Actually, the sad thing is I don't even remember the VIN of the car. But either way, I got it in July of 2018. And it wasn't sure. It was a cool car. I mean, it was kind of pretty bad to be able to like close the door, walk away, and then the mirrors close and some of the other cool things, like some of the features. But that's not why it was like life-changing for me. That is not why I went all in on Tesla. Wanted to be involved in the community, connect with other owners. It was the autopilot. It was the software. That is what makes this company, worth a lot versus nothing. It's the software capabilities. It's the app store that's possible with this company. It's really, and again, it's the software that really took this to the next level. Obviously, you can get into the hardware, which is like the robot and some other stuff, which is exciting. But what took me over the edge was the autopilot. I mean, it literally was back in 2018, and even again, I'm late to the game as far as the autopilot. Even Autopilot 1 and some of the other ones were game changing. To have a car that could stay in the lane with and being able to scope out like what's in front of it, what's behind it, and navigate pretty much perfectly. At least even doing that was a complete game changer. And this is, you're talking 7 years ago. And now I remember even just 3 years ago, them being able to do stop signs, stop lights only on straightaway roads. Now it's insane. You can literally turn on a whole fleet of millions of Teslas you can turn on that have the full self-driving capabilities. So not only is it able to handle the highways pretty well, it can now drive through cities, suburbs, and more importantly, it can drive through parking lots. I mean, imagine, take it through a freaking Costco parking lot and see what happens. It's still nothing is doing that unless you're literally sitting in a Waymo, which can do 6 blocks in San Francisco. It's literally like, obviously it can do more, maybe 12. But it's just one of those things where nothing can do that. And now is the time. This is something that they've always kind of been incubating, and that's why Tesla feels like it's a bunch of small mini startups. But this is something that has been part of the core of where Tesla is going. It's not going to be, necessarily the volume car growth. I mean, there is a factor of that. Are we going to reach 20 million by 2030? Probably. I mean, there's a case to be made that may not happen anymore. But is there a path to there? Or more importantly, we'll see what happens when they reveal the robotaxi platform and the next gen platform and the low cost vehicle. We'll see what happens when we get there, because that helps with the road, and obviously a couple more products need to come. But for me, it's always been software and autonomy have really been what has made me think that this company is worth something big versus nothing. And that's why I personally invested in that. Joe,
what's wild about that? You're saying that, but still the take rate isn't that great, right? And people, even though it was unlocked for free for everybody, it isn't like 100% of the people used it. You know what I'm saying? So even though that's like, we have that vision and we see that for the company, it's still, there's people who I did it over the holiday weekend for Easter and my family, and gave them rides and stuff like that, and they were freaked out. I mean, we're living in a time to where people love to see robots on TV, but not in their homes. And we want that for the company, and we see that vision, but realistically, though, the world isn't ready. You know what I mean? Like, we know the future is there, but people don't see it. And then there's so many people that don't even know it exists.
I agree.
And that's another thing.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. And it actually reminds me of myself. I mean, you all think, I know all about Tesla. I learned all about Tesla. I had no clue about the smartphone market in 2006. You guys probably were all on the Apple train. I was not. I was clinging to my Nokia with a little round screen and could turn around like that to open. I felt like the most, chic lady around there. Then I was clinging to my BlackBerry, writing my emails on the little pad. It was wonderful for years. It really took me a long, long time. So I can understand late adopters, because I was a late adopter for smartphones. But it's not because you are Apple and you see some old ladies like me being old adopters that you don't accelerate. You have to accelerate. You have to go in there with the early adopters and build up your clientele that doesn't even know yet that they have this need. And if you think it through, FSD autonomy has a huge has a huge need for elderly people, for young people, for people that have long commutes, for people who need to do something else while they're driving. I mean, it's just endless. So if you see the end goal, you can't stop because people can't adopt quickly. You have to accept that the adoption curve will be slow, especially for a huge disruption like that, and that people will be clinging to their steering wheels as if it was their grandmother. But it will come. It will come, and again, I can only tell you my own example. I was such a slow late adopter, that I understand where it's coming from. But I can also understand now why it's important to accelerate no matter what, because that's the only way to get through this wall.
Well, I mean, the truth is people don't know what they need until they actually have it. I mean, we've seen that with everything. It's a crazy thing. I was a manager at Radio Shack, RIP, but one of the things I noticed when we were transitioning to HD TVs, people did not want it. They did not want a clearer picture. Like, and it was just people just did not want to have to upgrade their TV. They liked the tube on the back. They did not want to have to get a flat screen. Like, it was a really bizarre time. So, I mean, Alexandra's like right on. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Like, if people would have rather have a faster horse than to get a car if that was their choices back in the day. Technology's got to move forward. Engineering happens, and this is the world that we're living in, and it's going to come. I mean, there's going to come a time when humans were driving, and we're going to look back and be like, why did we ever let people get behind the wheel of vehicles? It's a crazy thought, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. I thought I would just throw up this
contrary
comment.
to telephones, that we just get that. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And I said, contrary to telephones, the car is actually life-saving. You know, that's the one element that will convince regulators, and I think we'll get to that in a second. Having a phone or a smartphone, what the heck? But you know, this time we're saving lives, and that's where the beef is going to come from.
Yeah. And I thought this was a good comment, and I think this was made in humor. This is not actual question of like, hey, prove it. So Faye, who actually, shout out to Faye, she's a regular on the show, but prove it to me. Why do I need it? And I think it was one of those things where, you know, similar to what Joe was saying, is like you have to experience it in order to see what you have. I again was driving about 70 miles a day again pre-COVID. It was about 2.5 hours of a drive, and to have autopilot literally take me on the highway that whole time, you know, you actually don't get home and just like feel like you were just wanted to, like, you know, throw your laptop on the ground from hitting, you know, the gas, the brake pedal like 1,000 times, or having someone cut you off. Like you literally are able to put it on and, you know, really relax and unwind. So I even became a different father when I was going through that. And I don't know if that sounds like weird to say, but it was one of those things. I didn't get home wound up from just driving, because typically when the difference was I'd get home, it's like, hey, I need a couple minutes just unwind from that ridiculous drive. And now it's like you get home, you're not dealing with all the stress of just unwinding from the drive. And so it really is a life-changing experience once you experience it. Obviously, it's hard to get used to a little bit. You know, you have to get comfortable with it and build the trust. It's kind of like getting off the training wheels. You have to give it a couple reps around the circle, you know, to get really comfortable with it. But it's just it's one of those things, you have to experience it in order to realize it. Like for me, I have the Cybertruck now, and I love driving the Cybertruck, but I'm doing a 70 mile commute now without full self-driving, and it kind of sucks, to be honest. It's cool to be driving the Cybertruck, so that's like that makes up for it, but it's still like autopilot and full self-driving need to come to the Cybertruck, or even a basic autopilot. But it really is a game changer. So it's something you have to experience that could drastically change your outlook on Tesla, but more importantly on driving.
I was having a conversation with my sister, and she was saying, I would never trust a machine to drive me around. And I said, can I come out sometime, maybe this summer, and show it to you? Nope, not even interested. And I'm thinking, I've seen how you drive. I don't want to be in the car with you. Full meat driving is dangerous, even when it's done well. There's too many distractions. There's not enough eyeballs. You're in the comments, someone said, most people overestimate their driving skills, and that is absolutely true. I'm a good driver. Everyone else, terrible. Well, look, fine, you keep driving. Can we agree that everyone else should be replaced by something that's paying attention all the time, that has more eyeballs, that's that doesn't get sleepy or text or get drunk or get sick? Can we do that instead? Because it's terrible. In autonomy, there's a disengagement, which is when you have to take over, but there's an intervention when you tap the pedal, give it a nudge, so to speak. I can't tell you how many interventions I would do on the driver saying, hey, look, pay attention over there, or can we not tailgate so closely? Those are things that people overestimate their own abilities to an extent that is insane. And I think they're insane too, but
So it's crazy how fast an hour goes. So I want to be sensitive to everyone's time. So really, really good discussion today on big topics of just autonomy in general, Elon's comp package, Kimball, and other board members potentially being reinstated, all the way to the Tesla layoff. So it's been a jam-packed session. Thank you, Tesla, for the news. One quick plug. So obviously the largest Tesla community event in North America is happening at the end of July. And actually both Alexandra and Brian will be speaking as guest speakers. So if you're fans of them, please come. And obviously Joe will also be very involved, whether emceeing or doing other things on the back end. All the clothing, the whole clothing line. We'll put out some stuff about cool swag out there that he's
Y'all
creating.
ain't ready. Y'all ain't ready.
But if you love Tesla, electric vehicles, or if you're even interested in space flight, we have Jared Isaacman, a billionaire astronaut, who is running Polaris, the Polaris Dawn program, who is actually, they're going to they're going to the furthest place really since we've gone to the moon this summer at some point. So if you're into space flight or any of that, come learn about that. We're even going to have Ryan from the Nearapod coming as well. So you just want to geek out. You want to come and buy some Tesla accessories, super modified Teslas. We're going to have a whole section of modified Cybertrucks as well. So you should definitely come out and check it out. Go to xtakeover.com. It's going to be an amazing weekend. But yeah, I just wanted to do that plug. And then obviously I wanted to thank Brian for coming and giving us your time this week. So thank you for being gracious with that. And then obviously to our regulars, Alexandra and Joe, please follow them. They're all tagged on X or in the YouTube description. Give them a follow. Go follow FutureAza's channel as well. But we truly appreciate your contributions this week, and have a good week, everyone.
Bye-bye.